Ashish Nandi, a renowned political and social scientist and a veteran to whom everyone pays attention to listen to what Professor Nandi says. My name is Vinay Kumar. I am Secretary General of Press Club of India. Before we begin, I'll request Mahua, our former Secretary General, to welcome our guests. We have Mr. Srivastav, K. Srivastav, Director of IIC, and Professor Nandi, to welcome our guests with a bouquet. And I would now request our President, Mr. Umakant Akela, to begin with his welcome address. We will have 3-4 minutes of welcome address, then we'll be joined by Suhas Borkar, whose idea it was to begin this series. The next one will be held at IIC, and alternatively we'll have these discussions in IIC and Press Club of India. So, Mr. Umakant Akela.
थैंक यू। आज का दिन बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। मैं प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया में आदरणीय आशीष नंदी साहब का बहुत वेलकम करता हूँ। के. श्रीवास्तव साहब का बहुत वेलकम करता हूँ। दोनों ही पब्लिक लाइफ में अपने अपने क्षेत्रों में बहुत जानी मानी हस्तियाँ हैं। उनको कोई परिचय की जरूरत नहीं है और दोनों का बड़ा जो भूमिका है राष्ट्रीय जो पब्लिक लाइफ है उसमें, देश की पब्लिक लाइफ तो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, बहुत अहम है। और मैं प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से ये जो सीरीज शुरू हुई है उस पर बहुत प्रसन्नता है मेरे को। और देश में जो बहस, चर्चा, डिस्कशन, देश के सामने जो सवाल है उस पर जो डिस्कशन, चर्चाएं होने की जो शुरुआत हुई है वो आज एक माइलस्टोन रखा गया है, रखा जा रहा है इस सीरीज़ के लिए। और ये सीरीज़ यहाँ आज शुरुआत होगी, उसके बाद हम IIC में करेंगे और बारी बारी से दोनों जो देश के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में काम करने वाले लोगों के सामने, जीवन के पत्रकार, मीडिया, इन सब लोगों के बीच में एक सेतु का काम होगा। और आप सब लोग, मुझे मालूम है कि आशीष नंदी साहब को सुनने के लिए आए हैं, कि श्रीवास्तव साहब को सुनने के लिए आए हैं। मैं तो बहुत संक्षिप्त में अपनी बात कहने की कोशिश करूँगा। वो ये है कि सबसे पहले है कि जो डेमोक्रेसी के बारे में, लोकतंत्र के बारे में जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, जो इंटरप्रिटेशन है और जो समझ, वो ऐसा दिखा दिया गया है, ऐसा बताए, मतलब ऐसा पिक्चर क्रिएट हो रही है प्रदेश में कि डेमोक्रेसी का मतलब किसी भी तरह चुनाव जीत जाए, सरकार बन जाए, किसी भी तरह उसके बीच में जो साधन, सत्ता प्राप्त करने के जो साधन है, उनकी क्या भूमिका है उस पर कोई चर्चा खत्म हो गई है लगभग, कि ये चुनाव के जो साधन है वो क्या है। दूसरा ये है कि लोकतंत्र जो हम मानते हैं, मैं मानता हूँ, जो मेरी आस्था है कि लोकतंत्र सही मायने में आज़ादी के अधिकार की गारंटी। क्या डेमोक्रेसी में आज़ादी के अधिकार की जो गारंटी है वो बनी हुई है? Whether that right of people exists or not, that is the right important question today. दूसरा ये है कि डेमोक्रेसी में right of dissent. Right of dissent is a very very important part of the democracy. और डेमोक्रेसी में right of dissent, सहमति, असहमति, सहमति और असहमति का जो रोल है वो एक उसका जो कहते हैं दैट इज द फाउंडेशन ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी। डिसेंट, राइट ऑफ डिसेंट इज ए फाउंडेशन ऑफ आवर डेमोक्रेसी। सो क्या वो डिसेंट का जो अधिकार है वो सुरक्षित है, सेफ है, वो कहाँ खड़ा है, ये एक इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ है जो आज सोचने की। दूसरा ये है कि इस पूरा जो कुछ चल रहा है जिससे और सहमति और असहमति इसको कहते हैं, इसमें जिस फैटर्निटी से मेरा ताल्लुक है, मेरा संबंध है, वो है मीडिया। आई एम द मेंबर ऑफ द मीडिया फॉर लास्ट मोर देन 3 डिकेड। और हम ये मानते हैं कि पिछले कुछ समय से इस तरह की पिक्चर सामने आ रही है कि सरकार के साथ जो लोग खड़े हैं, जो मीडिया में हमारे भाई लोग खड़े हैं, हमारे दोस्त खड़े हैं, वही सही पत्रकार हैं, और जो सरकार से जो सवाल पूछ रहे हैं वो पत्रकार हैं। तो ये एक जनरल डेफिनेशन बड़ी पॉपुलर हो रही है और हो गई है, और उसका कारण है कि जो सरकार के साथ खड़े हैं या सरकार को सवाल नहीं पूछते हैं, क्वेश्चन नहीं करते हैं, उनको कई कमेटियों में उनको अवार्ड दिया जाता है कि आप इस कमेटी में, इस कमेटी में। और ये किस्म से इससे हम लोग जो इस बात की वकालत करते हैं कि देश में मीडिया फ्रीडम जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने दिया है, राइट ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, राइट ऑफ फ्रीडम, that is given to us under Article 91A by the Constitution of India. It is not by any charity of any groups or individual. लेकिन ये सारी चीज़ें इस तरह से हो रही हैं, और हमारे जो टेवी जो जिसको कहते हैं विडम्बना करते हैं, तो आयरनी हम कह सकते हैं। वो आयरनी ये है कि हमारे टीवी चैनल अगर सरकार से सवाल पूछने के बजाय वो इस तरह से पिक्चर क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, जो बड़ा दुखदाई बात है कि सरकार ने चुनाव जीत लिया, वो जो मर्जी करे। ये तो सरकार का जो उसको वोट दिया पब्लिक ने, वो जो मर्जी करे, वो एंटी डेमोक्रेटिक काम करे, संसद में संसदीय जो वैल्यूज हैं, संसदीय ट्रेडिशंस हैं, संसदीय मान्यताएं हैं, उनके खिलाफ काम करे। तो ये एक मीडिया का जो एक बड़ा, खासकर टेलीविजन मीडिया की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ। और दूसरा जो और मुद्दाई पहलू ये है कि हमारे देश की जो आवाम है, देश की जो जनता है, उसने ये मान लिया है कि सरकार हमारी माई बाप है। नहीं भाई, तो सरकार जो कर रही है तो सही कर रही है, हमें इससे लेना देना नहीं है, तो ठीक ही कर रही है जो कर रही है। तो ये जो चीज़ें हो रही हैं, ये जो इस तरह का एक सोसाइटी, इस तरह का समाज जो क्रिएट हो रहा है, जो बन रहा है, जो निर्मित हो रहा है, वो बहुत चिंता का विषय है। और आने वाली जो जनरेशन है, वो आने वाली जो पीढ़ियाँ हैं, वो डेमोक्रेसी को या हमारे संविधान की या वैल्यूज ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को कैसे डिफेंड करेंगे, ये एक बहुत अहम मुद्दा है। मैं आदरणीय आशीष रंजी साहब, आदरणीय के श्रीवास्तव साहब का एक बार फिर धन्यवाद अदा करता हूँ। और मैं ये कहता हूँ कि ये आपको आश्वासन देता हूँ कि प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया उन सारे सवालों पर, जिन सवालों को आप उठाएंगे, हम सब लोग मिलकर के देश के जो ज्वलंत सवाल हैं, जो बर्निंग क्वेश्चंस हैं, मीडिया के जो सवाल हैं, और मीडिया जिस तरह से अलग अलग कर दिया गया है, जो मुख्य धारा का जो मीडिया है, उन सब चीज़ों पर हम चिंतन करेंगे, मनन करेंगे और समाज को जागृत करने की दिशा में हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। आपका दिशा निर्देशन हमें मिलता रहेगा, डायरेक्शन मिलता रहेगा, ऐसी मेरी उम्मीद है। मैं प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से आप सभी लोगों का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं और आपका स्वागत करता हूं, आप सब लोगों की तालियों के साथ।
We will now have Mr. K. Srivastava to speak, and then we'll be joined online by Suhas Burkar. He's not feeling very well today, that's why he couldn't come. So, Mr. Srivastava.
Respected Professor Ashish Nandi ji, President of Press Club Sri Umakant ji, Secretary General Sri Vijay Kumar ji, and my dear friends. At the very outset, I would like to express my deep gratitude to the Press Club for inviting me to this occasion. I must compliment our colleague Mr. Suhas Borkar for taking this initiative to bring IIC and Press Club very close to each other by way of starting a conversation between the two. Ever since I have taken charge as director of IIC more than 3 years ago, I have always felt that our interaction with the media has not been much, and there is need to make some power movement in that direction. So much so that we organize several interesting programs, very, very valuable programs. But the kind of audience, the kind of reporters which the programs deserve have been missing. And this is, in my view, on account of not much of interaction taking place with of IIC with the media. So in that direction, a very nice breakthrough has been made, and I'm sure in months ahead we would be having far more closer interaction with each other for the common good of the society. Uma Kanji has, in this respect, I would also like to inform all of you that in the IIC, we are going to create, we have already decided to create a post of communication officer, and very shortly a person is going to be appointed against that post, basically to ensure that there should be a nodal person who could arrange interaction between IIC and media on a regular basis. So I'm sure this initiative of IIC is definitely going to be very fruitful to us, and also it would help us in interacting with the media on a regular basis. Now, before I close, I would just like to add to what Uma Kanji has mentioned about the state of democracy in our country. No doubt, democracy is the best form of the government, but then the democratic system also must operate in a very healthy manner. Often it is said that the democracy, can function very nicely. The three wings, judiciary, executive, and legislature, should function independent of each other. Now a fourth, pillar has also been added, that is the media. So all the four have to be, functioning independent of each other. And unless that happens, democracy can never be working in a very healthy manner in our country. Since I have spent almost 4 decades in the executive, and also had a very fairly long stint in the judiciary also, as a judge in the Central Administrative Tribunal, I can say that the kind of lampooning of executive which has been happening day in and day out at the hands of all other key wings is definitely having a very telling effect on the state of administration in the country. And the result is that even small matter which should have been acted upon at the grassroots level or at the middle or lower level, etc., officers simply refuse to take any action because of the consequences which are going to follow. The result is that slowly and slowly executive is really entering into a state of inaction, and if executive becomes inactive, all other things, whatever they do, the administration of the country cannot be done properly. I would not like to say much. There will be occasion for me to elaborate this point in greater details. Few things I would like to, just couple of things I just wanted to underscore. This no doubt our constitution provides everything, and it is our bounded duty to see that the constitutional principles are upheld by each one of us. But are we really doing that? If you look at the functioning of judiciary, nowhere in the constitution it is written that the judges will appoint judges, but it is happening in our country by way of some judicial pronouncements, etc. There is no provision anywhere in the constitution regarding so-called public interest litigation, but judges have devised that PIL, and that PIL is nothing else but a direct instrument of interfering into the executive functions. So this way several aberrations have been taken. Look at the legislation. All the, whether at the state level, MLAs or MPs at the central level, everybody is trying to capture more and more executive powers. So these kind of aberrations are not really good for the country. The democracy recognizes the four wings very clearly, and each one of us should really confine to their functioning, to their operations within their defined domain. So I would not like to say much. I stop it here. Once again, I would like to compliment the press club, its office bearer, the president, the secretary general for taking this initiative. And I'm sure in the weeks and months ahead, we'll be having far more interaction with each other. And from the IIC side, we'll certainly be happy to interact with you and see that healthy dialogue and all important national international issues are now fostered at IIC at Press Club under the joint auspices of IIC and the Press Club. So thank you once again for inviting me to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, and I'm sure in the days and months to come in the near future, we will certainly see both the institutions which were founded in the same year, and IIC got its building in 1962, while we are here since 1958. So we have also completed 6 decades of our existence, of a glorious existence founded by the doyens of media at that time, and we have tried to uphold our lofty traditions of Press Club of India, and as Lakadaji was saying, to muster courage to pose questions, right questions at the right time to the government and hold power to account. And now I would request Suhas Durkar to carry it forward and join us. He is joining us through Zoom, and we are also filming it live on our YouTube channel. We have a Press Club of India YouTube channel, so this is going live there also. Mr. Suhas Durkar, please.
Thank you, Vinay. Ashish Das, Director IIC, Shri Srivastava, my two friends, Umakant, President PCI, and Vinay, Secretary General PCI. First of all, let me say sorry for not being present in person for this inaugural meeting of the series, Conversations with Media, as I was detected with COVID here. I must tell you, share this with you, that the series got done in a GIST last month. I spoke to Vinay spoke to Makant, and meanwhile I spoke to IIC Director Shri Srivastava, all okay. Finally, I spoke to Ashish Das, and he immediately agreed. He said he had fond memory of the press club, including the delectable fried fish. So today, after the meeting, Ashish Das shall be treated to special fried fish. I learned it is veg tea, arranged by Aura Vinay, the chefs of the press club. Now I would like to introduce you all to doing these for instruction, but I think some may not know about it, because he's an internationally known psychologist, political psychologist, sociologist, futurist. So here is Ashish Das. Presently already fellow Center for the Study of Developing Studies in Delhi, and formerly its director, fellow Woodrow Wilson Center, Washington, fellow Institute for Advanced Study at Berlin, Nansen and Edinburgh, UNESCO Professor in European Studies, University of Trier, Regent Fellow, University of California, LA, IIC SSR National Fellow, Open Society Fellow, Central European University, Budapest. Author of more than 20 books and 120 papers. Among his well-known books are Roderick and Sanchez, The Intimate Enemy, Tradition, Tyranny and Utopia, The Tao of Cricket, The Illegitimacy of Nationalism, The Savage Freud, and other essays on positive and sustainable health, The Regimes of Narcissism, Regimes of Despair, all published by OUP. Awards include the Grand Prize of Fukuoka, Asian Culture Prizes, Shri Narayan Guru Samiti Damodar Award for Lifetime Achievement, and in 2019 the Hans-Christian Prize 2019 enrolled with 80,000 euros in Germany, recognition of his lifetime contribution to bridging diverse fields of social and cultural scientific research, and the creative and interdisciplinary approach. Listed among the world's top 100 public intellectuals by foreign public science. In 2019, Ashita was elected trustee of the India International Sector and re-elected again as trustee in 2021. When he talks of the fear and the lure of dissent, Ashita has been speaking as one of the most profound and penetrating futurists of our time. His thought has a deep and abiding secrecy. He has pioneered the notion of the future as an arena of awareness and future studies as a field of dissent. Ashish Jha has been called the futurist of the futurists, and his work encompasses a wide spectrum from alternative colonialism and dissent to his vision of an open and pluralistic future. Over to Ashish Jha.
Thank you, Suhas. And floor is now given to Professor Ashish Nandi. We are honored and privileged to have him here for the first time in Press Club of India.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I will not give a very long speech, and I will not repeat myself. First thing I will do is to start by affirming that it is impossible to kill dissent or subvert it fully in this part of the world. In this part of the world. I will therefore start by two examples which gives you an idea of what an unorganized, chaotic society and how it handled dissent in early 20th century, when the issue of sati became an important matter of public debate. Many of you may not know, I did what I like with sati. And I was immediately attacked for being a pro-sati man. And that was the first controversial thing. Because the real controversial comment I made was this, that sati took place, early 19th century sati epidemic under East Indian Company rule in Bengal. And at that time Bengal included Bihar, Odisha, Assam and whole of Bangladesh. Now, strangely, one of the first things I found out was this, that sati did not take place in Indian villages, except rare. A huge majority of the satis took place in Calcutta and surrounding suburbs, and otherwise in cities. Second, sati was confined to the upper caste. There were one or two cases of Mahishyas, who can be considered OBCs, but they were the ones who were successfully get crushed into the upper caste professions and so on. So, sati was a disease of the upper caste. And sati took place particularly among more prosperous families. Now, it didn't take me much time to find out that that one of the reasons of that was this, that Bengal had a traditional law called Daibhag, and the rest of that area, entire area. And the rest of India had the system of Mitakshara. In Mitakshara, a widow had no right to the property of her husband. It was the property of the joint family. The men of the joint family had access to the husband. In Dayabhaga system, the widow had the right of inheriting her husband's property till her son attained adult. So killing the wife, or if she was lamenting, saying, "I wish I was dying," and she was pushed to sati, was a very profitable business. Nothing of ritual or religion was involved in it. And that was the conclusion, which was not palatable at that time, because they mobilized Brahmins and experts, and Fort William College, where they had set up priests, scholarly priests, who prescribed what was in Hindu rituals, so that to rule India well. Now, they decided to have a public debate, and it was held in one of the local aristocrats' places. It's called a priestly family, and the entire Calcutta elites were present there, and they were afraid of Ram Mohan Rai, who was anti-sati and was running movement against it. So they imported Brahmin, very scholarly Brahmin, from Tamil Nadu to debate with him. And mind you, most of these people who were attending, not most, I wouldn't say most, but many of these people attending or witnessing this assembly were people in whose family satis had taken place. So the debate began and ended after a long while. Subramaniam spoke and Ram Mohan Rai spoke. Subramaniam was a guest scholar, but Ram Mohan had prepared himself very well and used the Shastras extremely intelligently and powerfully. And you will be surprised that despite the fact that the assembly was predominantly pro-sati and considered anything against sati to be a British imposition, voted with a huge majority for Ram Mohan Rai, even though they were not happy with it, because scholarly debates had a different kind of status. And what the Purva Paksha says, the Uttar Paksha must take into account. You cannot set up a straw man and demonically in great style and claim that you have won the debate. So this is my first instance. Purva Paksha was very important. So the dissent, correlation of dissent starts from that. Nobody who ignored the Purva Paksha or made a short sheet of it was considered serious, as a serious scholar. My second example is in modern times, and this tradition is not dead, is from my experience of my young friend Arindam Chakraborty. He had a very eminent Sanskrit scholar as his guru in Sanskrit College in Calcutta. He now teaches philosophy in University of Idaho. That man, that teacher, retired. So Arindam went to him and said, "What will you do now?" So he said, "Yes, I want to write a book on Vedanta." So when I was starting on that, oh no, not that. Because to really meet the arguments against Vedanta, whether it is from Sankhya or of Nyaya, it is not enough just to do that. I must first write a book presenting the best arguments in favor of Sankhya, Sankhya and then Buddhism and Nyaya, and then I will write my own. So, after that, Parinam had gone, went away, wherever he was all over the world. So, and after some years he came back. So his Guru very warmly said, about 7-8 years he came back. He said, I've finished the book on Sankhya, I've finished the book on Sankhya, but now I will start with the book on Buddhism. And Parinam again went back very happy. And so on and so forth. Then Arindam came back after again 7-8 years. And he found that he has more or less completed the book. But he was about to start the book of Nyaya, always whatever it was. But unfortunately, the Guru died. So he never had the chance to write his Uttar Paksha. But he was honest enough to complete 2 books on the Purva Paksha with a very fine work of scholarship. So the tradition has not dead. And I do think that this, the kind of threat that comes to dissent in seeing around us, are a matter of a few bullies who have got access to power. Otherwise, they would have remained local bullies. Now they are an Indian clique. That's all. Nothing beyond that. Nothing beyond that. The first attack on dissent, serious attack, came before the President Trump came to power. Dr. Manmohan Singh began to take a very harsh attitude toward NGOs. And also, this partly began with Indira Gandhi, but NGOs were harassed. Many of them were, attempt to stop the flow of funds to them, not only from abroad, which they advertise.
Can you just pull the static mic closer? Then that will be easier to hear.
This is better, right?
No, this one.
This one is better.
This one is better.
No. Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Yes, hear me. Okay. So, but no, that was only an excuse. Because even some of the corporate donors who were supporting NGOs, and of course corporate donors are not very adventurous people, they were not supporting revolutions or terrorism. Even they were this approach and and said that you shouldn't, and their donations were coming and so on and so forth. But it began early. And that has been taken to its present, culmination, where I know a person very eminent in the cell tycoon, a very successful one, was where people were sent from Delhi to complain to him that you are supporting the wrong kind of thing. So there is this part of the story. Okay, but I am not also, I will not stop there, but I just want to end with the comment that a global study of democracy and NGOs were done by Robert Putnam. He is one of the very eminent eminent researcher.
Can we get the name one second, please, Robert?
Huh? Yeah. He came up with a conclusion after studying NGOs all over the world that the most democratic countries have very flourishing NGO activities. Many of them are critical, many of them are, I would say, didn't operate according to rules. Many of them use language which will upset many governments, at least our government. But nonetheless, those countries which are very active NGOs were the best governed countries with the finest record of democracy. Because, because if you don't fiddle with it, it takes care of itself as far as NGOs are concerned. For instance, to do one instance, Peria used to take out fruits every year in Chennai, which was in Madras, on a lorry, in a series of lorries, where his disciples and admirers would sit on the lorry with idols of Ram, Lakshman, and others, and beat them with shoes going through the streets of Tamil Nadu. I'm sure many people's sentiments were hurt, but nobody interfered with it. Nobody interfered with it. And as one would expect, after a few years, they got tired, Pereira got tired, and that it ended without any unpleasantness. In fact, I would say that the kind of slogans at that time that were given in Tamil Nadu about separating from India and becoming autonomous, that also was tolerated. Annadurai did say that in Parliament, but nobody took it seriously. If you don't take it seriously, it has a better chance of being resolved than if you take seriously and to catch hold of them and create false case against them to put them in jail. That I wanted to say. Now I come to a more central part of Parliament. I think dissent in India cannot die out because it thrives on four crucial strains of this civilization. First, though Buddhism has become virtually extinct in India, except in some small areas in North, Tibet, and so on and so forth, India. But Buddhism, it might look extinct, but Buddhism survives and lives a very healthy life as a substratum of Indian consciousness. I'm a student of psychology. I study master. It is absolutely clear. And I will give an example of that. It is a crucial, it is component of the dissent that comes up in India. It has been, for instance, in as early as 1880s and 90s, at least to the fag end of 19th century, Tagore began to write plays and poems organized around Buddhist Jataka tales. As early as that, and they were all pleas on social equality and justice. Egalitarianism and justice. So much so, and this is very interesting because Tagore also identified these four strands, which I am going to spell out. And these four strands, I believe, he gave God when in 1980s and 90s there was major trauma in his life, his person and his muse sister-in-law, wife of Vinabada. Yes, he lost his sister-in-law, who was an early playmate of his, but also ended up as his first critic, first reader, and first inspiration. Till the end of his life, she was to remain that. Because at 70th year, he began to paint. And most of the paintings of women visible automatic. So you can imagine her name. So her death was a great shock. She committed suicide by consuming opium few months after Telugu's marriage. I think there was a kind of unacknowledged love affair between the two. Within a few, by that time, they got married, but Tagore's 2 children out of the 3 died. Ultimately, he had 4 or 5, and 2 of them died at that time. So did his wife. And he was very disoriented and went all over India. Many of the places were places of worship. Like he went to, for example, Amritsar to get exposure to Sikhism. So this was a very dark times of Taylor. And he began to write a new kinds of poetry and plays, which strangely enough began to anticipate Gandhi. It is only recently, not recently, but some years ago, that I discovered through the courtesy of a friend a 5-page brief Bengali article in a book published by, he was dead now for many years. That 5-page article tells something remarkable. He tells that taken together, the characters of the plays, some of them in the 1880s and 1890s, plays, and a large number of poetry written at his time, projected a future liberator for India who was remarkably like Gandhi. This Gandhi before Gandhi. Tagore had not heard of Gandhi, nobody had heard of Gandhi, not except Gandhi's family. Nobody had heard of him. Gandhi was 10 years younger than him. So, anyway, so not only that, a very good example of what I am saying is that he wrote a very nice poem, very well-known poem on Guru Gobind Singh. And Guru Gobind Singh was a warrior saint, everybody knows that. And it starts with him, and he was also very scholarly man, both. So he writes about it, all this comes in, but gradually the poem takes a different turn. It talks of Guru Gobind Singh's presence as an emergence of a person who has been ascetic and has been comfortable with the lowest of the low and would be without any, would discard the dress of what he was wearing, and is wearing wearing a loincloth and things like that. It comes in that. So it's almost uncanny similarity with Gandhi. At the time I would have read out some of the questions, so would have written this. And he also makes a point, a beautiful point, which is convincing, that evidence shows that Valmiki's Ramayana was written many centuries after Ram Puja has spread in large parts of India. So Ram Puja and the practice of worshipping Ram worship, was not a gift of Valmiki, but it was there. Valmiki was the first one to capture it. Subsequently, of course, there are hundreds of Ramayanas in India. And similarly, with Krishna Vaipaya, Krishna Puja was present long before Krishna Vaipaya, this Bhagavad and Krishna Vaipaya writings came out. It was for centuries it existed. The writings only gave one version of it, and it also has many versions. Now, and strangely enough, I felt that that this strata of this was one strata of the story. That this was Gandhi before Gandhi and Krishna Ram before Ram. Anyway, that's a different thing. But I would like to go to the second strand of consciousness. Tagore and many, this also happened even in folk literature. You can find it, all four I am giving have his beautifully captured in Tagore's poetry, plays, and sometimes even some writings. So, and yet they are also in the folk. Without Tagore, Tagore must have imbibed from this. This, what you might call almost uncanny meeting between the minds of people. And for a creative poet, perhaps a creative poet can have the unconscious and untaught sentiments that can capture it. So I have given the example of Buddhism, which was a major tool of Tagore to criticize society, particularly inequality and injustice. The second one was this, that Tagore was a Brahmin. Brahmo reformer was there in his family for 3 generations already. Tagore was the 3rd generation. But, and the Brahmos believed that to purify Hinduism, they had to bring back the Vedas and the Upanishads. And that's what they did. But defying that ancestry, Tagore had the courage to say at this time, in some of his writings, that actually the unity which you see in India, and his India includes Pakistan, Bangladesh, and all of South Asia. This unity comes from medieval India. And this is also remarkable because of such a modern family, somebody comes from a modern family, began to talk of medieval India at a time when, following the European convention, Indians have also started talking of medieval India as a time of dark ages. Europe used to call Middle Ages dark ages at that time. So Indians also had to have a dark age. So they also used to say that Middle Ages was dark ages. Medievalism. No? Whereas medieval India is arguably the golden age of India. Because so many creative persons emerged at the folk level. New Ramayanas were written, new Mahabharatas were written. And Mahabharata was written over a period of 800 to 1200 years. Different ancestors. And these writings now began to have a much more influence than the Sanskrit Ramayana. Because this Ramayana is a folk Ramayana, like Tulsidas Ramayana, the Bhakti Ramayana. Same with in Maharashtra, with Ekanath and others. And same with in Bengal, like Nalan and तुलसीदास Kritibaas was there and Kritibaas, that's right. So this became a new trend and people were going into this. And this also allowed them to use this medieval age and this tradition of reinterpreting Ramayana and Mahabharata from local use. For example, Ram and Lakshman in Kritibaas Roja, they eat rasgulla and sandesh. So, anyway, so that whole thing gives you a certain autonomy from the Brahmanic worldview and all that. And you are at your own, and you have your own ideas and own beliefs. Like for example, Mahabharata at that time had a new intrusion, you might call it, so that's what I don't call it, but an epic written over a period of 1200 years will have many intrusions, one or two. The Shanti Parva is supposed to be a Buddhist intervention to Mahabharata. Because, other countries who did this, and they are very good scholars, but they, I think, wrong mentality. So they wanted now, Indians wanted a Indianized version of Western Christianity and parts of Islam, because they thought that this Protestant Christianity, not Catholicism, Protestant Christianity and Islam were the clues to these warrior communities and their conquests of Asia and large parts of Africa and so on and so forth. And that's what they wanted to capture. So they had problems with this kind of folk-based world of it. And also it was decentralized. There's no control over it. Incidentally, I will give you an example. Each community and each Ramayana and each Mahabharata have their own worshippers of gods and goddesses. And they are descent there also. In Tamil Nadu, there's more than 1 crore of people who use the Ramayana. Where Ram and Lakshman are the villains, and Meghnad and Ravan are the heroes. In North Bengal, there is another community of that kind who fast on the day of Ram Navami because that day Ram won and Ravan lost. So that was the other part of the story. Dissent was always there. I'm just stressing the whole logic of it. And the very presence of people like Kabir and others is an indicator that dissent was a major aspect of medieval India. And finally, medieval India is also the time when Sufism and Bhakti movement both had a fantastic spread all over India. So Bhakti and Sufi. And how far it went, you can understand this, that virtually this formal text, Sanskrit text, where the formal position of basically scholars now, gradually, and academics. And they have done it. And I would put it this way, that anyway, so this is the other part of the story. It must have taken Tagore a lot of courage to defy his own existence and say that medieval India was the clue to India's present unity, whatever it is. Now, thirdly, India began to try to masculinize Hindu. Hindu is the exception of this. Vivekananda was the first to attack Buddhism as something which has demasculinized Hindus. A very sharp criticism of Buddhism. And yet, this is a period also produced, perhaps because of that, these people were. Bhushan Chandra rewrote the character of Karna as a person who was more or less like a Christian god. In Mahabharata there is this story everybody knows that when Duryodhana and him fought, one of the crucial last minute battles, and Bhim was unable to break through the defense of Duryodhana. Krishna, him came, right? Signing something his thumb, that he would break his thigh. Now, breaking his thigh is illegal in Kshatriya order. It's like hitting under the belt in today's boxing. So, that. And when this happened, the gods showered. Buddha was dying, gods showered flowers on him as a true dying Kshatriya did, and fighting righteous battle. And Buddha delivered a major chastisement of Krishna, and Krishna hung his head and listened while looking at the ground. You know? So, Pandavaraja thought that this is not befitting a god. He wanted a god like a Christian god, with omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. So it wasn't that. So it is not that this is all very new, because there were strands of atheism in also the Sardarshan. Vedanta is atheistic. Sankhya is atheistic. Buddhist value is atheistic. So there was this part of the story also. So it has a tradition. It has a tradition. So this became this. Now, anyway, so what I am trying, and let me complete this, that this demasculinization of religious figures, like now Ram has returned wearing a warrior's look. Now, Ramchandra Guru told me a story which I couldn't, he told me that he had found it somewhere, but I couldn't find it. So I couldn't put it in my book. But the story is interesting. Gandhi was taken to an RSS office. So he was appreciating the pictures. So we asked that the Guru Singh is there, and Abbas Singh, the hero Arjun is there. But why is not Ram there? So they said, no, he doesn't suit our purposes. He's too feminine. Androgynous, you know, Ram. You can see when Sita is attracted, he breaks into tears. And the hero doesn't break into tears. In the Western theatre, you know. So this was not acceptable. So there was this part of the story. And there was this full-fledged attempt to masculinize Hindu pantheon. and Savarkar picked up this, and and try to build on it, but I don't want to go into this. So this but androgyny of this kind in India has been there and remained. And as you will know from Bombay film, that before Amitabh Bachchan came, the heroes always had androgynous types. In Sarachandra Chattopadhyay's works, he was the most popular writer in late 19th century no, I think early 20th century to these heroes are all androgynous except for one, Fateh Kali. When the hero is hyper masculine and anyway. So the androgyny is there, and this is all continuing, and this is not new. What these people are doing. It's only a westernized version of Indian modern. So much so that they once had an exhibition at Moscow, and for the exhibition, large number of sculptures were sent. But Tipika was the ambassador there. So when he saw this Ardhanal shape, which had been included in it, he was furious. He said, I cannot take this. We are not half men, we are full men. And that sculptor was anyway. So there is this part of it. This androgynous part is also very crucial. And one of the arguments against Gandhi was always that, not only that. So Gandhi made non-violence fashionable and masculine by saying that it is not cowardly. It is more courage to be a non-violent activist than a violent activist. But if you don't have the courage to become a non-violent activist, then you should resist violently. I mean, he said when Nazi Germany attacked Poland and Polish army, which was minuscule compared to the Nazi juggernaut, they tried to fight the tanks, Panzer formations, with soldiers riding horses. They were massacred. Because that's a wholesale massacre. So Gandhi said it is very non-violent, almost non-violent, he said, almost non-violent. So the courage to still fight and register them, he said, register the dissent, even when knowing facing them. So that. Ultimately, this part of the story must end with my reference to Ambedkar's revolutionary, you can say, footnote to Indian history, which is from outside. This is a strange way of putting it, but Ambedkar said, in one place, I found it because of two young writers on Ambedkar have drawn my attention to that. I found it very fascinating. He said, all history is the history of Indian history. The history of India is the history of mortal combat between Buddhism and Brahmanism. Buddhism and Brahmanism. Now this is a revolutionary footnote in some ways. way of writing history is no historian, formal professional historian will accept. It's not of science. Exactly what I'm saying is also many times outside history, because medieval India didn't live a proper history in the sense in which it demanded. But as you know, Kavi is more alive than many historians who have written great books. So has Tulsidas, for that matter. Tulsidas and Amir survive. This is partly because the Indian civilization, a major part of the civilization, a major part of the civilization, is based not on textual, but on the oral. And it is a memory. It is stored in memory work. You cannot learn certain things in India without being acquainted with that part of the story. You cannot. You cannot learn classical, North Indian or Carnatic music without a guru. Without a guru. No, there are now 60 or 70 universities in India which give degrees in music. You can get a PhD in music. But till now has not any of them has produced a great vocalist or a instrumentalist in the last 80, 90 years. Prabhatre, many people give me that example. When Prabhatre, when he came on our 80th birthday to give a performance, he said, after I decided to perform in public, I chose a guru and tied a rack. Yeah, sorry, Genda, and then my training was complete. So he retained in music. So that's what Indian society is. That's what Indian society is. And I might end this presentation, but I've already spoken much longer than I intended to. That exactly like what Ambedkar said, or what Tagore said, none of them is history, but it survives. It survives. By the way, this beautiful thing of Amir Kusoro, which shows that how androgyny has come also from Sufi. He uses in one poem the well-known line which in many songs you find. भला हुआ मेरी मटकी टूट गई, मैं तो पानी हमारा से छूट गई. Radha singing this. It's Radha. He's puts that just like that. So it shows what is the kind of civilization in which we are living. And I can end with the words of those who use conventional history or have not too much trust in it. This is by Aga Shahid Khan, Aga Shahid Ali. Your history gets in the way of my memory. I am everything you have lost. You cannot forgive me. I am everything you have lost. You are perfect enemy. Your memory too gets in the way of my memory. This is a civilization where dissent cannot be strangled. No regime, no bully, no member of any fascist organization, or no admirer of the idea of a Western style emergence of a nation state, and the worship of the state worship, statism, official language statism, can take away that fact. Your history stands against my memory, and who cannot forgive me? It is everything I've lost is in me. So you think is lost, actually is there in the hearts of people. When Ambedkar says that thing, about mortal combat, that combat is not a historical combat. We have no record of that history. It is a combat which is present in each and every person in this subcontinent. In this subcontinent, it is within us. It is for us to choose our options. Thank you very much for your patience.
Just a minute, he's speaking. So, hey, do something to this.
Institution of the university. The modern university, as the sociologist Patrick Geddes pointed out, was a contract between the oral and the textual. It was a community, a knowledge system, and a common refuge for dissenting scholarship in the age of mass society. Geddes went to the extent of arguing that the university was that no university was complete without its dissenting academics. Now that was the first point which I would like to react. Shiv Vishwanathan took up this in a post in November last year. The second point is this comes from a reference you made to me, blatant assertions of unequal moral worth in the context of marginalization of justice in public discourse. Thank you.
That was great response, observance to Ashish's talk. You wanted to say something?
Thank you very much. Ashish, very brilliant as usual, nothing surprising. You seem to be saying that dissent is a unifying factor for India, whether it is Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism. But why is it that the sense of dissent is being lost? The political dissent is being lost. We see less and less of it in the media. We see less and less of it in the academic circles. So that part of dissent, and even in religion, the kind of focus that we see where there is less dissent and there is a movement towards integration. What do you think about it?
I won't take individual questions. I will combine them. If anybody has any questions, please tell me. And I want to get the point fully. What is the specific question? That the dissent is less visible and it is becoming, it is almost less visible in the media, in the academic circles, and even in religion, you see less and less of it. Why is this happening?
We are given two very good examples of how dissent existed in medieval India. My question is that what motivates the people these days in India to accept the lack of dissent? Is it just Hindu versus Muslim, or is it the dynamism showed by Modi and his government? Because people feel that he is doing things, his reforms, his new schemes, his digitalization, the efficiency it's supposed to bring. These are the things which matter for India to grow and not be 5 times behind China. So what motivates these people to accept dissent and, forgive other lapses?
My point is about why I was a bit bit of a continuation of that point. How come that this monolithic look given to Hinduism is suddenly seems to be accepted by Hindus because there are no challenges to it.
Ashita, I have a question myself, a small one. You said much of dissent is very difficult to strangle in this region because much of it is not actually written history, but a great lot of it is what has been passed on orally through memory and as memory and retained as memory and something like that. My question to you is, you are a psychologist in social sciences, so if you can just explain whether that passing on of that history, the oral history, the memorized history, is happening in the manner in today's world as much as it used to in the 19th, 20th or medieval centuries that you were talking about. Thank you.
So, long ago, you had written an article in EPW. You had accompanied someone who went to interview Narendra Modi. I think it was way before 2002. So you had written that whatever you observed and according to his conversation, Narendra Modi is quote unquote a textbook case of fascism. You had written EPW. Now, after 25 years of that article, many people have analyzed whatever is going on in this country. Someone says it is authoritarian regime. Many people say it is fascist regime. Where do you stand on that interview? Do you think that this is a classical case of fascism or some Indian version of fascism or whatever else?
Yeah, Ashishta, this is Manan. My question is that all the dissent right now is coming onto the social media. So does the dissent matter now?
On the right hand, right?
All the dissent is coming onto the social media. Does it matter now?
Okay, done? Yes. I will be very quick because there is no time. It is also better than 10 minutes close. Why it is less visible? Yeah, dissent doesn't have to be. And I think it is, if some people have decided not to be visible by being dissenting, that's okay. This happened in Quit India movement. This happened during emergency. Everybody, if nobody talked, Jayaprakash Nair was shocked that nobody came to even make a demonstration when he was being arrested and taken. In fact, 2 surveys showed before the elections, Mr. Gandhi met 3,000. 2 of them said a civil meeting. The third was a slight doubt which been but difficulty or something of that kind. I think they said that it has been that marginal. And you know what happened. People were booked, and it was such a decisive judgment. So we have no way of knowing it. This time it has gone further because the emergency has lasted for a very long time. But this has been kind of this longer list is partly due to the fact that internationally also there is a whole gang of people of that kind. Bolsonaro in Brazil, Erdogan in Turkey, Duterte in Philippines, Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia, the military rules in Thailand. This is unending. It is unending. Long history is very long. So you feel comfortable by that. And you know that you can get some some place by aligning with some and not aligning with the others and so on and so forth. That's one thing. Visibility is not the first factor. I am talking mainly of things what is the mindset. What is the mindset? Why dissent? Why is because this is the moral is the same thing. What is Modi party? Yes, I wrote that. I would have wrote authoritarian, less authoritarian. I interviewed him in 1989. Not only I said this, like I came out and said to him, he was cannot be.
So Yagnik was there. Someone Yagnik.
Yagnik was there. And Modi didn't know us, and Modi was a newcomer. Even he had been seconded by RSS to organize the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Now, I said, because there have been a lot of studies of Pakistan, and because, frankly speaking, we in India have not been able to do what people have done in the United States about Donald Trump. Even his niece has written a psychiatric analysis of Donald Trump, and he's the bestseller. Wouldn't do a thing. Wouldn't do a thing. Our laws are not like that. You know, various excuses, these laws have been increasingly strength. So I don't blame the people who keep silent and don't speak out. I did say that. And I also burst out in the open public. I published in seminar. When Gujarat riots take place, I made the prediction 13 years before the Gujarat riots that this man is going to turn out, will preside over the mass murder. This I said to Ajit, and they still remember this. And Modi does, because he also allowed us to record it. So there is that. Anyway, so I think that dissent doesn't end when it ends in the pages of newspapers or ends in doesn't end in demonstrations or even in very transient demonstrations or quietude of Indian people. Indian people have always kept quiet. And at the right moment, they come out. We should be ready for that. The other last thing I want to say is this, that one of the signs that something has disturbed the sense of propriety of Indians, something which make them feel that the moral universe itself is threatened, not political universe, but moral universe, ethical universe is threatened. There is something that the interest in Gandhi increases. And in emergency time, some of the finest books came out on Gandhi, some of the projects on Gandhi began then. And I do see that a similar trend now in the last 10 years, that Gandhi has been rediscovered in a different kind of way. And abuse of Gandhi also has increased. Because they know that there are people who are not opening their mouth, but they are stubbornly on there. That's what I want. That's it.
To ask about oral history being transferred, do you think it's happening now?
No.
Oral memorized history in this region, has
Always
it
is
stopped?
there. It's always there. You cannot suppress it. You cannot suppress it. I mean, it's like the Tilak's thing, Chak Babu. He was staged a Puranic play. But the British knew that he was talking of them and the rule of India. And he was tried for that, jailed for that. He teaches work, that's all. That's all.
thank you, Shishka, for this brilliant talk, and we have no authority to comment upon it. But the way you took us through the journey of descent, right from medieval India, and you go all these interesting aspects about descent, it was really very interesting and very enchanting for all of us here. And before I invite Mahua to propose a vote of thanks, formally, on behalf of the Managing Committee of the Press Club of India, and if I can take the liberty on behalf of IIC also, we thank our lead speaker, Professor Ashish Nandi, Mr. K.N. Srivastava, for being able to make it to Press Club of India, and we hope that we may not have the best of infrastructure like Habitat and IIC has, but Press Club of India remains a very vibrant place where we exchange ideas, and journalists and photographers, visual media, everybody comes together to make it a hub of activities. So next time when we have second one in series at IIC, I hope it will be equally interesting, and we will get a speaker with help of IIC Press Club, and as Mr. Srivastava pointed out, our joining of hands will go a long way in strengthening both the institutions. Over to Mahua.
Thank you, everybody. This first joint venture between Press Club of India and IIC seems to have begun on a grand note, because it couldn't have been better. Enchanting is the word that Vinay used, and I think all of us present here were truly enchanted by this, debut talk by Professor Ashish Nandi. As always, he was his brilliant best, and I think we were all kind of engrossed and wanted this to go on and on until he himself decided to stop, and we do have to do that. So thank you very much, Ashish Dash, thank you, Mr. Srivastava, and everybody else who's present here, of course Vinay and Lakera ji. We would really look forward to all of you continuing with this talk jointly and quite frequently, so that we are able to learn as much as we can in these times. Thank you, and please join us for a cup of tea or a